to St. Paul-Calvary's Good Friday service. We're so glad that you could join us. Would you join me, please, in our opening prayer? God is light, in whom there is no darkness at all. Jesus Christ is the light of the world, and this is the judgment, that the light has come into the world, and we love darkness rather than light. Jesus went forth with his disciples across the Kidron Valley, where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, for Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas, with a band of soldiers and some officers from the chief priests, went there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was to happen, came forward and said to them, "Who were you looking for?" And they answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." And Jesus said, "I am he." Judas was standing with them. When Jesus said to them, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Again Jesus asked, "Who are you looking for?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." And Jesus answered, "I told you, I am he. So if you seek me, let these men go." This was to fulfill the word which he had spoken. "I did not lose a single one of those whom you gave me." Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. And Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword into its sheath. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" So the band of soldiers and their captain and the officers of the Judean authorities seized Jesus and bound him. First they led him to Annas, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. It was Caiaphas who had given counsel to the religious authorities that it was better that one man should die for the people. Simon Peter followed Jesus, as did another disciple. As this disciple was known to the high priest, he entered the court of the high priest along with Jesus, while Peter stood outside the door. So the other disciples went out and spoke to the woman who guarded the gate and brought Peter in. The woman who guarded the gate said to Peter, "Are you not one of this man's disciples?" And Peter said, "I am not." Now the servants and officers had made a fire because it was cold. They were standing and warming themselves, and Peter was there also, standing and warming himself. The high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. And Jesus answered him, I have spoken openly in the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temples, where all Jewish people come together. I've said nothing secretly. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard me what I said to them. They know what I said. When he said this, one of the officers standing by struck Jesus with his hand, saying, Is this how you answer the high priest? And Jesus answered, If I have spoken wrongly, bear witness to the wrong. But if I have spoken rightly, why do you strike me? Annas then sent him bound to the high priest Caiaphas. Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself, and they said to him, Are you not one of his disciples? Peter denied it and said, I am not. One of the servants of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, said, Didn't I see you in the garden with him? Peter again denied it, and at once the cock crowed. Then they led Jesus from the house of Caiaphas to Pilate's headquarters. It was early. They themselves did not enter the headquarters, as they might not be defiled, but may eat the Passover meal. So Pilate went out to them and said, What accusation do you have against this man? And they answered, If this man were not an evildoer, we would not have handed him over. And Pilate said to him, Then take him yourselves and judge him by your own law. The religious authorities said to him, It is not lawful for us to put any man to death. This was to fulfill the word which Jesus had spoken, to tell what kind of death he was to die. Pilate entered his headquarters again and called Jesus and said to him, Are you king of the Jews? And Jesus answered, Do you say this of your own accord, or did others say it to you about me? And Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done? Jesus answered, My kingship is not of this world. If my kingship were of this world, my servants would fight, that I might not be handed over to the religious authorities. But my kingship is not from this world. Pilate said to him, So you are a king? And Jesus answered, You say that I am. For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. And Pilate said, What is truth? After Pilate had said this, he went to the religious authorities again and told them, I find no crime in him. But you have a custom that I should release one man for you at the Passover. Will you have me release for you the king of the Jews? And they cried out, Not this man, but Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. Then Pilate took Jesus and scourged him. And the soldiers put a crown of thorns on his head and a purple robe on him. They came up to him saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they struck him with their hands. Pilate went out again and said to them, "See, I am bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no crime in him." So Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them, "Behold the man." When the chief priests and officers saw him, they cried out, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him, for I find no crime in him." The religious authorities answered him, "We have a law, and by that law he ought to die, because he has made himself the Son of God." When Pilate heard these words, he was afraid, and he entered the headquarters again and said to Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave no answer. Pilate said to him, "You will not speak to me? Do you not know that I have the power to release you and power to crucify you?" And Jesus answered, "You have no power over me unless it had been given from above. Therefore he delivered me to you and therefore he who delivered me to you has the greater sin." Upon this, Pilate sought to release Jesus, but the religious authorities cried out, "If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king sets himself against Caesar." When Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Pavement. Now it was the day of preparation of the Passover, about the 6th hour. He said to the religious authorities, "Behold your king." And they cried out, away with him, crucify him." Pilate said, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." They handed Jesus over to be crucified. So they took Jesus, and he went out bearing his own cross to the place called the place of the skull. In Hebrew it is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on either side of Jesus. Pilate also wrote a title and put it on the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." Many Judeans read this, for the place was near the city. It was written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests said to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but write, 'This man said, I am the King of the Jews.'" And Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his garments and made 4 parts, one for each soldier. Since his tunic was without seam, woven from top to bottom, they decided not to tear it, but to cast lots for it. This was to fulfill the scripture, "They parted my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots." So the soldiers did this. But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her to his own home. After this, Jesus, knowing that all was now finished, said, "I thirst." A bowl full of vinegar stood there, so they put a sponge full of vinegar on hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the vinegar, he said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Since it was the day of preparation, in order to prevent the bodies from remaining on the cross on the Sabbath, the religious authorities asked Pilate that their legs might be broken and they may be taken down. So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and the other who had been crucified on each side of Jesus. But when they came to Jesus and saw he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once blood and water came out. He who saw it has borne witness. His testimony is true. And he knows that he tells the truth, that you also may believe. For these things took place that the scriptures might be fulfilled. Not a bone of him will be broken. They shall look on him who they have pierced. After this, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the religious authorities, asked Pilate if he might take away the body of Jesus. Pilate gave him permission, so he came and took away his body. Nicodemus also, who had at first come to Jesus by night, came bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds in weight. They took the body of Jesus and bound it in linen cloths with the spices. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb where no one had ever been laid. So they laid Jesus in the tomb.
Were you there when they laid him in
thank all of you for joining us for our Good Friday service. Easter morning, we will celebrate. And we will celebrate the fact that Jesus didn't remain in the tomb, that he was resurrected. But on this night, there was the sadness of his disciples, the sadness of those who were near to him, and those who knew him well. And so, we end our service here, looking forward to the empty tomb on Sunday morning. Amen.